With January just round the corner, it is time to milk the YouTube algorithm for all it's worth. And today we're going to be reviewing New World and asking the age-old question which every YouTuber puts forward in January, which is of course, should you play this game in 2023? Unlike other content creators though, I have played a variety of PvP, PvE and even tried a little bit of housing. I know, shocking. I have almost 500 hours put away into this game, I played the beta, and of course I was there on launch where the queues were longer than an Amaranth fan meet. New World has had its highs and it's definitely had its lows. But where does it sit currently? Is it on an upwards trend or is it on a downwards trend? So if you want to know whether you should invest your time and money into this MMO, then stick around as we explore the good, the bad and the ugly side of New World and whether it is actually worth playing in 2023 and the years to come.
I heard that New World's getting a lot of big updates. I'm actually thinking it might be time to come back to New World, guys.
It's not. That's no.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is of course launch day for New World. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it was catastrophic, for many reasons which there's been many a video on. But it's been over a year now and a lot has changed. There's been DLCs, there's been combat improvements, and they've even addressed certain aspects of the game which are pretty much killing it. But the question still remains, have they done enough to make this a top 5 MMO or even an MMO that you want to spend time playing? So first up, let's talk about the gameplay. What does it actually play like and do we want to play it? So how does New World play? Is the gameplay any good? And to talk about this, we really have to look at the combat. Typically, when it comes to combat, there's two schools of thought. You have your WoW-esque global cooldown tab targeting, and then you have your Elder Scrolls free range, just spamming abilities as much as you want and just trying to manage your resources. And then you have New World, which combines global cooldowns with free range targeting, and then they say fuck it, let's add in a bit of Call of Duty style FPS gameplay, which kind of puts people off. Let's be honest, there's nothing worse than bringing a knife to a gunfight, or in the case of New World, a greatsword to a musket firing squad. Personally, I actually really like the combat in New World. I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking, but I can understand the mindset behind it with the cooldowns and like having to actually time your attacks and time your combos. Because you have to actually aim your abilities, it does add a certain level of skill to the game, but then it goes one step further by adding another problem to the game, which is having people who used to playing FPSs playing as a musket bow build at range, shooting you, and you can't do fuck all about it. Like, you're just getting headshot from miles away and you're just like, okay, I guess I'll die. As someone who uses a controller to play New World, I actually appreciate the fact that there's not 20 skills to cycle through, which is funny enough one of the criticisms you hear the most about New World, the fact that it only has 3 buttons to use, but that's 3 buttons per weapon, plus 4 slots for buffs, potions and whatever else, and of course the newly added ultimates. So don't be so easily fooled by this game has a lot more complexity than it first looks on paper, but overall I think the combat is good and definitely worth a go. When New World first launched, one of the worst things about it was simply the leveling and progression. A lot of people picked for level 60 and the grind was just a bit too grindy. The whole point in an MMO is that you're constantly progressing, you're constantly working towards something. You shouldn't be able to complete an MMO in 10 hours. Unfortunately, New World didn't really understand this at the time and just made everything really fucking long-winded. However, fast forward a year and they have significantly improved the leveling system. The new player experience is tons better than what it was before. And trust me, I know, I got to level 60 when the game was first released, and I've recently got to level 60 again on one of the fresh start servers, and I can tell you straight away, it was tons easier than it was before. This can also be said about endgame. When it comes to actually getting your gear score up, it's not as bad as it once was before. It does seem like it's a lot easier now and there's more ways to actually acquire gypsums which actually level up your gear score. And don't get me wrong, there's still some element of RNG when it comes to getting the best in stock gear, but isn't that the point in the MMO? The fact that you can't just have everything straight away and that you actually need to work towards it and play towards it? Overall, I feel like the progression has significantly improved. I don't feel like you have to rush to level 60 anymore, and that you can actually take your time and experience the lore and environment around you. Which is good news for casual players, you're certainly going to get your money's worth. And for anyone wanting to rush to endgame, well, you still can rush to endgame, it just won't be as bad as what it once was before. One of the things I love the most about New World is how interactive the environments are. You can cut down trees, you can mine rocks, and you can just kill and skin animals. That being said though, one of the biggest issues I have with this game is crafting. It literally haunts my soul as to how boring this is. But sorry, we'll carry on. Sorry. Initially, when you first start crafting, it's not so bad. When you first start your crafting journey, it seems quite simple and straightforward. You get the initial hit of dopamine because you crafted some pants and all of a sudden you're level like 10. You're like, wow, this is great. However, the further on you get into crafting, the more monotonous and boring and just resource heavy it becomes. I know some artisans will be licking their lips at the thought of being able to go out there and constantly farm materials and become this big master crafter, but it really does make endgame that much more tedious than it needs to be. One thing, however, I really do like about the crafting is that you almost have like a prestige mode when you reach level 200. I've not really leveled up anything too far into the prestige, so I don't know if you get like a golden knife after skinning so many pigs, but I feel like this has some real potential to it. Also, you have to remember they are willing to add new skill lines like they did with the music skill line this year. It's not quite a bard class, but playing certain songs will give you certain extra boost to XP or simply the amount of loot that you can carry. But just the fact that they did this shows that they have the potential to widen the skills and maybe even make them a bit more enjoyable. Playing a mini game to level up is a lot more fun than just simply going to a table and left clicking. Overall, the crafting, whether you like it or not, does add longevity to this game, which when you are playing an MMO is certainly something that you want to have. In this day and age, the most popular thing about any MMO is its PvE. And for the most part, it doesn't have to be too difficult, it just has to be enjoyable. At risk of sounding like an idiot, PvE doesn't really start till level 60 in this game, and by that I mean it's the only time you have to give thoughts around your build, your skills and your tactics. The level 1 to 60 grind is very much a solo experience. You don't need to worry about having other players to be able to get past certain aspects of the game. As long as you stay in your zone which correlates to your level, you really don't have to worry about dying to overland mobs or bosses. Once you reach level 60 though, this soon changes. You require group composition, you can't solo world bosses in the level 60 zones, and it actually helps the team up, which adds to the social element of the game. Dungeon scale and difficulty, you have mutations which you can set in order to give yourself more of a challenge and better loot and rewards. And you'll also need to farm specific gear to be competitive in PvE. From my personal experience, I really enjoy the PvE in New World. It's something that you actually have to team up with other players that do. The Overland actually has a sense of danger, and with the addition of Brimstone, it goes to show that they're willing to scale up the PvE as opposed to dumb it down for new players. I really enjoy the PvE in this game, however, I feel like we're still just scratching the surface of what's still to come. Corruption invasions are mesmerizing when you first take part in them, however, I do feel like this can get a bit monotonous as time goes on, and I do wonder if they'll start scaling this up a lot more. One thing worth noting is that they advertised a giant sandworm within Brimstone, which would be like some sort of world boss, which hasn't actually released yet. So how this will work, I'm not too sure, but I feel like it could be another fun experience to be added to the PvE content. My experience with PvP in MMOs is that it never quite hits the mark. It never quite lives up to the expectation of the competitive PvP sweat, and I completely understand why. If you look at New World when it was first envisioned, it was going to be very PvP focused. Fast forward to the present day, and it didn't quite hit the mark, did it? The whole PvP flagging system really took away from any real PvP competitiveness because people simply wouldn't flag up for it. In my experience with the server that I'm currently on, which is a fresh start server, I've really struggled to find PvP. People don't flag up in the open world. OPR, as fun as they are, it can be very hard to find a game at certain times of day. They really need to rush ahead with this whole cross-server OPR because I feel like it's a big element of the game which I simply miss out on because no fucker wants to play. When it comes to the 3v3 arena, sometimes I can wait 30 seconds, sometimes I can wait 30 minutes. It's very inconsistent as to how many games you can get through. And if I want to be super critical, the fact that there's only one OPR arena and one 3v3 arena really takes away from the diversity of PvP. If open world was more poppin', this wouldn't be a problem, but because it's not, you really are subjected to some very monotonous PvP experiences. That being said though, when you do eventually get to PvP, the experience overall is enjoyable, as long as you're not getting shot from 300 meters away by some musket loser. I really enjoy the PvP skill line. It gives me a sense of a reason to go and do PvP, and I hope to see more games implement this in the future. Overall though, PvP is good in this game, but I just feel like PvP in MMOs just suffers overall. It's definitely a lot more enjoyable than other MMOs I've played as of recently. However, there is a caveat to that, which is there's a lot of room for improvement. I think one of the biggest surprises about this game is the fact that there's no heavy monetization and there's no pay to win. Yes, they have a cosmetic store, but they also give away a lot of free costumes through Twitch drops and events within the game. A lot of people will argue that this is due to the fact that they had such an abysmal launch that they're trying to regain the trust of the community, and to be fair, that's not a bad thing. Going forward in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if they did start charging for DLC. You have to remember, Brimstone was 100% free. However, take that with a pinch of salt, because think about this, if you did have to buy Brimstone, you'd be missing out on the Greatsword and the ultimate abilities, which are pretty much game changers when it comes to combat. So you have to ask yourself, if they do start to monetize DLCs going forward, would the game start to become more pay to win? And that's something that we're yet to see, and we can only hope that's the direction they don't choose to go down. One of the things which is really clear is that they're getting better at reacting to glitches and exploits within the game. When you take day one, they had a numerous amount of glitches which they were just very slow to react to. And to be fair to the team, I think this was just down to a lack of experience when handling MMOs. In recent times, there's been duplication glitches which have popped up, and the first thing they did was shut down the ability to trade items so people wouldn't actually benefit from it. I think the team have some great ideas in the pipeline, but if anything, they're just very slow to get them out. I'm not sure if this is due to the actual size of the team or whether they have other priorities in the pipeline, but I'm just happy to see that they do have ideas going forward and that they're very forthcoming with their roadmap. The biggest issue I have with the game direction is just the way they've laid the servers out. I don't understand why they split up into so many different micro servers when realistically each region should just have one mega server. I feel like if they did this, a lot of the issues such as the wait time for OPR and free versus free, and even just finding queues for some of the dungeons would be reduced dramatically. It'd also make wars more interesting, invasions more popular, and the open world PvP might actually have a chance. I don't know what their tactic is going forward with the servers. I'm hoping they up the population, but over time I have seen more and more get merged, and it feels like we're repeating history with what happened on launch day. Hopefully there is a plan, but at this point I'm just not too sure. So the big question then, is it worth playing New World in 2023 and the years beyond that? I've always said since day one that this game has a lot of potential, but it's just taken a while to get there. And to this day, I still think that. I think there's a lot of potential behind this MMO, and if they do start to implement some of the stuff that the fans are asking for, this could be one of the best MMOs out there. I certainly think in its current state, it's a top 10 MMO, which in itself is a very subjective argument, but I don't think anyone is actually holding a candle for New World to say it is the #1 MMO on the market. And that's fair enough. Give it a year or two, maybe it could be. But if, like me, you're bored of some of the older MMOs and they just feel a bit stale, then 100% give New World a go. It will certainly hold your attention and then some. Whether it will plug your MMO fix that we're all striving for right now, because let's be honest, the MMO market is kind of lacking, it's hard to say. 2023 is going to be a big year for games, and do you know what? Maybe something comes out this year which will top every MMO out there. And on that bombshell, I'll end the video. By all means, if you have liked and enjoyed my content, please subscribe. And if you want to view any more of my videos, I'll leave some on the screen right now for you to click on. Please click on them. Please, please, please click. Anyway, enjoy 2023, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.